So,
Wow.
speaking of Joey Ramone,
Yeah, Joey.
after reading some of the more honest Ramones books, here's the thing.
Marky's book was great.
I, my very first Ramones book was that one, We're an American Band. And in retrospect, that book sounds like a collection of press releases.
Yeah.
Because it's not all the Ramones are perfect.
Yeah.
Because the Ramones image is based on how dysfunctional they are. So, but at the same time, that book didn't mention anything about Linda and anything.
Yeah.
Didn't mention anything about half of the shit we're hearing now. So,
Joey and...
so Joey, I didn't know how much Joey's mental issues, how major they were.
Yeah.
Because, we didn't have all of that background stuff when I was growing up listening to the Ramones in the 80s. So I didn't know that Joey not only went to an insane asylum, but he was there for years. I don't know my facts completely on that, but evidently he's had more problems with mental and emotional problems than we initially thought. And I thought it was just them being funny, talking about lobotomies and shit like that. But then I come to find out a lot of that is because Joey, that shit happened.
Yeah. Marky talks a lot about that in his book from his perspective, and I think that's one of the reasons why I have so much respect for Joey, because he had, he was somebody who, at least according to what Marky had said, had, issues with OCD. And
which I didn't know about that either until later on.
It can be a really difficult thing. You got to think about that. He's a performer. He's on stage playing for thousands of people all the time. And just to be able to push through that, to be able to get out of the house, push through it, and go do that, and go be successful, I think is amazing.
As a little asterisk to this, I was watching an interview with this guy. I don't know his name. He ended up being involved with the Ramones later, but evidently he's involved in some of the legal, intellectual property issues. And I'll figure out how to explain this later. But he basically said that he heard that Joey, that Joey was originally the drummer.
Yeah.
One of the things that he talked about, and it may have been just an urban legend, but Joey took more time in between songs resetting his drums than actually playing the drums.
Yeah.
So they're like, fuck this, get him up with just a microphone in front of him.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I think, other than, we covered how they have the uniform image and they look like a, the other thing is, I don't know if you read about this, we'll talk about this design thing before. A lot of people thought they were a gang.
See, that's so weird to me, looking back, I can see it, but by the time I came around, because of them, leather jackets were given. Everybody's got a leather jacket or a leather-like jacket, and everybody wears blue jeans, especially now. It's fine to wear jeans to work. That was not such a thing then.
The Sex Pistols thought they were a gang. The Sex Pistols thought that Johnny Rotten thought that they were going to beat him up.
I thought they were a gang.
Yeah. So, going back to it, the design stuff really hooks people. But the other thing that I also think, after especially reading about so many different people's backgrounds, both in the band and fans, and that is, there's a big issue of mental health that runs through the Ramones that I don't think you really hear any other band address.
Yeah, the honesty is really good.
Yeah, they may talk about it in one song, like Suicidal Tendencies, all he wanted was a Pepsi. But it's like anything else. I can't take mental health out of the Ramones any more than I can a bowl cut or a leather jacket.
Yeah.
It's like an essential building block of the Ramones aesthetic is all of this is filtered through a very twisted brain.
Well, it makes it very relatable, you know, because, you know, so many of us can relate to that. Yeah.
Well, okay, I'll start with my thing. The way it's relatable to me, and this is stuff that I found out later when I started to get therapy. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, shit, I was born in 1968, and when I was growing up, we didn't talk about mental health.
Yeah.
People that had to deal with mental health issues were people that it was already an issue.
Yeah.
It's like they had already exploded and gone to prison for assault, or they tried to kill themselves, or they drank themselves to death. Mm-hmm. But the average person like me, who had what I come to find later once I had therapy and some kind of like a real qualified person listening to me, found out I had racing thoughts, high levels of anxiety, which caused depression. They found out that I don't normally have depression. It's just that my anxiety causes the depression.
Yeah,
when I'm not feeling anxiety, I don't feel depression, and so forth. So, and the racing thoughts thing was another thing that nobody really explained to me when I was a kid, and it made me think. And translating into the way you deal with other kids is how you find out how crazy you are. So when you all of a sudden blurt something out, and all the kids, like at a cartoon, they all look at each other and then they look at you and they call you a fag. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? Fag?
Yeah.
You know? That's when you start to feel like you're a mutant.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the whole Devo thing, but less mechanical and more societal.
So would you say that the Ramones gave you like a space where you felt accepted within that? Because I felt that too, like in listening to their music and in having the way their music is structured is like in itself therapeutic for somebody who might, like myself, be especially hyperactive. It's like it's good for that, and then you start to listen to it and you feel like inclusion in a community of people that are also like you, and you don't feel like, I mean, if it's like if Joey's got it, then it must be okay. I can be okay
Joey's
too.
A rock star.
Yeah. So I think that's what's so cool about them is that they send a message to folks like, hey, it's okay to not be the definition of whatever normal, you know, it's okay to be unique. It's okay to have things that like you got to work at, you know, because the best people do. That's the most authentic people, in my opinion, usually have something quote going on, whatever.
Well, for instance, my first favorite Ramone was Johnny, because retroactively I didn't like actualize this inside of my head, but now that I look back, I think there's a dude with severe anger issues.
Yeah.
Who's channeling it to make himself successful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you're like, if that guy didn't beat the crap out of a guitar every day, he would beat the crap out of people every day. Yeah. And even though I wasn't a very violent person, when I would lose my temper, it would be like, I want to beat the crap out of people. You know? And so the Ramones, it was just more than, because I was a heavy metal kid too.
Yeah.
But to me, the Ramones were more like, heavy metal was more like a cartoon. It's like cosplaying.
Yeah.
But the Ramones were real.
Their authenticity, the way their music is, I guess, stripped down. All the extra fluff is taken out. All the overproduction that was so predominant at the time. It just cut through all of that. And it just gives you, like, this is authentic stuff rooted in, you know, early rock, but it's, you know, sped up, and it shows you like, hey, you can take whatever you've got going on and put that into something positive and do something with that, like leverage it to play guitar really well or to write lyrics.
But that's the thing though, is going back to the whole original concept of their mental health aspect. That is what kept them from being a novelty band.
Yeah.
I love Typo Negative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're great.
And a lot of people are like, oh, you mean all them vampire love songs? And I can't deflect that criticism because that's like everybody judging Marilyn Manson on Antichrist Superstar.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But the point being is that after all the vampire love songs, he made a string of albums that should have been basically titled Typo Negative, Peter Steele Thinks He's a Piece of Shit.
Wow.
Because all of his lyrics are, I'm a piece of shit. I am a horrible, worthless human being, right? And the reason that I listen to that so much is because a lot of times I feel that way myself.
Yeah. Sometimes it's nice to know other people feel that way.
This giant 6-foot muscular vampire prince thinks he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And so did the Ramones to some point.
It's good to know that you were not alone in feeling those things. And I think that if I'm, of course I'm having to look backwards because I wasn't around for this, but I think if you were a kid growing up with that might have been especially relatable to know, you know. So I didn't really have that like when I was a teenager, so I had to go and like seek it out in things that had already been done. There was not a lot I could relate to.
Well, okay, I'll also do a little coffee hiccup. A little sidebar here. It's like a theory or an observation, and that is, if you look at the end of the century, from the 60s, probably the 50s, maybe we'll start at the 40s and picture a ladder, and the 40s are the lowest rung on the ladder, and that's when pop culture became commodified. Right now, picture a ladder that every decade is a rung, and every time you go up a rung, the ladder gets narrower. And everything inside of the ladder that you can step on is acceptable music, and everything outside is marginalized.
Right.
What you got was, all the way towards the year 2000, when you reach the top of that ladder, there's no room inside of the ladder, very little places to step, and there's a bunch of stuff outside that's marginalized. You hit 2000, you get the internet, and then the ladder goes from a tiny little step, and now keep in mind, technology accelerating it, you're not going by decades anymore, because it's only been 2 decades since the millennium, right?
Yeah.
But what's happened is, not only does the ladder get wider, the access to information becomes universal and circular.
So everything becomes accessible to a wider audience of people.
Yeah. You no longer get your information from music magazines and books and TV programs and the radio. You go, I want to look up Ravi Shankar. And there's 15 million motherfucking titles on Ravi Shankar. Right? So what you have now is a generation of people, especially starting from the 2000s, who the Ramones belong to them.
Right.
Individually, and that's the big shift that happened in my opinion, culturally in 2000 was, it became, instead of somebody bringing music to you, you collect music to yourself, or pop culture or whatever. You bring to yourself what you go out there and find, and you don't have to go to the scary part of town, to that record store. You don't have to take a chance on ordering a magazine through the mail that, you just spent your money on a piece of shit photocopied. You can go out and find any source of any information on anything you want to.
And sift through it until you get exactly what you want. Yeah.
And now you have baby metal.
Baby metal.
Baby metal are those 3 Japanese girls that have a thrash metal band.
What?
They're from Japan. They're like giant production, and they have worldwide fans.
They're kids?
They're Japanese girls, so they're dressed up to look like girls. Little girls, obviously, because that whole thing.
Oh, dear.
But yeah, so I don't know how we got to this part, but basically, the Ramones now like I said before, with the whole T-shirt ban thing and people losing their minds, the Ramones both belong to us and don't belong to us anymore. Stairway to Heaven does not belong to Led Zeppelin anymore.
It's like obligatory.
Yeah. You can't get pissed off when somebody goes, I love that Hey Ho Let's Go song. You know? You can't.
No.
Because it has been
it's like part of the cultural DNA.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's been assimilated into the DNA of our consciousness.
Yeah. So that's been weird because I was right on the edge of like the transition from analog to digital. So I remember like when, you know, your friend would give you a mixtape and that's how you found out about things. And then I remember Napster and that just kind of blew everything and you could get anything you wanted.
Yep.
But it was weird. Like I think in some ways it was better before the internet, but in other ways not so.
Well, to clarify that point from my point of view, is that it took more effort.
Yeah, you had to really seek it out. And you had to know what you're looking for.
That's like I was saying. You had to go to the dangerous part of town to that record store, or you had to have that cool friend, you know, that smoked pot
turning
behind
you
the
on
gym,
to stuff.
You know,
hey man,
stuff like that.
Check this out.
But now it's like you're watching The Simpsons and you're like, who are the Ramones? Click, 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 click.
Click.
Holy crap. You know?
Yeah.
So some cool guy that smoked pot behind the gym isn't the guy that's turning you on to the Ramones anymore.
No.
And I think that's better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
I guess I just miss a good mixtape.
Oh, okay. Well, let me tell you this. Girl, let me tell you about this.
Let me tell you about mixtapes.
Back in my day, bonus tracks were on 12-inch singles that you had to go to the Scary record store and buy because they were imported from England.
We just had to wait like 60 seconds at the end of the CD for the bonus track.
Yeah.
Silence. Yeah. Wait, there's a bonus track.
Exactly.
Oh my god.
But that's the thing is we didn't get bonus tracks because vinyl was very limited.
Yeah.
So if you wanted bonus tracks, and like another plug here, I did a whole series on the Beggar's Banquet 12-inch singles, and it's like back then when you made a mixtape, even for a Ramones casual fan, if you put a non-album track on a mixtape, they were like, who the fuck are you? You know, how the hell did you find this Ramones track that nobody knows about? Well, I went to the record store.
Cool guy points. You don't get those anymore.
You get those, but you have to be...
Found it on YouTube.
But you have to be a different person.
Yeah.
Because here's another thing that I think is great about technology. It exposes people for what they are.
Yeah.
So all of the people that have to mansplain to the girl wearing the Ramones shirt, it's like, what's your favorite Ramones track on Subterranean Jungle? You know, and she doesn't know, and he's like, you don't need to wear that shirt.
Get out of my face.
Yeah. So, I mean, those kind of people get exposed by that, but then people like me who want to be relevant and don't want to be irrelevant old people, it's like you have to learn, like, whenever I'm out or I'm at a gig doing the Ramone gig, you know, I get people telling me, I love that Hey Ho Let's Go song. And I don't have to grind my teeth and go,
yeah.
I'm just like, that's great.
You know the song. You know about the song.
I don't know if we...
you know they got more of them. You probably like them too.
Well, and another sidebar, I don't know if we covered this before, but to me, whenever I see somebody on the internet dressing somebody down for wearing a Ramone shirt and not knowing the band's history, I'm like...
not knowing every...
dude, you won. You know? It's like you're bitter because people called you a dumbass and a retard for liking... Those Ramones are fucking retards, man. They all look like they're fucking retards and they wear clothes that they look like they pulled out of the garbage can. Somebody told me that, right? You're a fucking retard and all that shit. I win.
Yeah.
His children are wearing Ramone shirts, you know?
And they're wearing designer jeans that look like they came out the garbage and cost 3 times as much, because now that's like high fashion.
So
what was then like, you know, an act of social dissent has become high fashion.
Exactly. And like the very basis of this interview is, I think that somebody who was born before the Ramones, you know, just as the Ramones were breaking up.
1987.
You were born in 87.
I was born in 87.
So, you know, for most of your life, the Ramones were broken up.
Yep.
I think that, you know, your view on the Ramones has as much validity as somebody who's been into the Ramones since 74.
Yeah.
Because there's more of you than there are of us.
Yeah, but the thing is like, when I first heard their music, I didn't get it, because I didn't grow up, you know, with any exposure to the punk scene. I grew up with very mainstream, very, you know, 70s highly produced rock music, a lot of disco, nothing wrong with that. But, you know, the beige and the paisley, I didn't grow up with that. I grew up with some new wave. So when I first heard, like, the Ramones, I didn't get it, because it seemed to me on the outset to be too simplistic. Are you stopping it?
No, at some point I probably yelled too loud, and I was just erasing the little red dot that said...
You yelled?
Yeah. So, but here's the sidebar. Both of us are now manifesting our OCD because what happened earlier is I probably overloaded the mic for a second, and the little red dot that
blinky
said
thing?
Yeah, blinky thing. I had to erase that.
Yeah, I had to fix that.
Alternately, Bren has been watching the screen with the what you call it?
The
wavelength on that.
Audio
so
wave.
That's both of our OCD things.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.